was awesome. When our Tree of Life social justice team and I talked about putting together a Faithify campaign to support Compassion for Campers, one of the things we had to do was decide how much to ask for. Now, just in case this is your first Sunday here, Faithify is a Unitarian Universalist crowdfunding program, kind of like GoFundMe. And Compassion for Campers is a ministry that this congregation has been running for decades that supports people experiencing homelessness in our county. So when we set up the campaign, we had to think carefully about how much to ask for because Faithify is an all-or-nothing program. If we didn't reach our goal, we wouldn't get anything. So when we decided on $2,500, it felt a little risky. Would we make it? But we went for it. And I was amazed at the initial response, not only from many of you who contributed right away, but also from others both within and outside of the UU world. The southern region of the Unitarian Universalist Association invited me to join their Facebook group so we could share the campaign. The Mid-America Chalice Lighters, which is our own region, committed a matching grant of 20% of whatever we raised. Faithify highlighted our campaign in one of their general emails. So the list of people who contributed ranged from our own congregation to people across the country, both UUs and a few non-UUs. And despite this, there were still times when I wondered if we would make it, when the contributions paused and the days left in the campaign ticked away. I heard from some people that they wanted the campaign to succeed, but they were waiting until closer to the end to see if they needed to contribute or contribute again to push us over the line. And then a couple of days before the end, two large contributions, one from a family and another from a group in our congregation, pushed us past the finish line. And together, we raised over $3,000 to support our Compassion for Campers program. And I've wondered since then how many of us were waiting to see what others might do. I know Virginia and I took some time, and I was one of those people who was like, well, I'm not going to let it fail. Like, I'll figure it out. We were also talking about our determination to make sure the campaign succeeded, how much we might contribute, whether others would step up, how much was reasonable to contribute. And it's understandable that we do this. Contributing to a shared endeavor involves risk. And yet, look what can happen when a number of us come together to support something so important. And our pledge campaign is like that. Any pledge campaign is like that. Today kicks off our congregation's pledge campaign, the time when we are all asked to commit to the shared endeavor that is Tree of Life. Contributing to our annual pledge is an act of faith. It's a risk, especially after the last few years. And we don't know if our contribution will be enough. We don't know if we'll reach our goal. To give a portion of our treasure to a common cause when we don't know what our congregational or our personal future will bring is taking a chance. And the last few years have involved a lot of chance-taking here, haven't they? We had no idea how the pandemic would go. We didn't know when we would start regathering in the building. We worried about people stepping away. We worried about the future of the congregation, if we were making the right decision to keep the building closed, to have an interim minister, or indeed a professional UU minister at all. We worried about the health of our friends and ourselves. And even when we started to have hybrid services, for some of us, it felt risky to return and to try to make the changes necessary to welcome a multi-platform community. And this past year, when we created our Tree of Life mission statement together, Many of us weren't sure what that would mean, or indeed if it would mean anything at all. And so just like our Faithify campaign, some of us were in early, contributing those first few days. Some of us waited to see what others might do. Some of us needed time to think about what we would offer to support our beloved community, to decide if we were ready to take the risk and help push us over the finish line. And I know from talking with several of you that just like our Faithify campaign, there were there were times you wondered if we'd make it at all through these past years. And there were times where we were full of hope when we saw a bright light shining through our uncertainty. And I've been on this path with you for about 2.5 years now. And as my time with you nears an end, I want to tell you how hopeful I feel about what I'm seeing now. As Janet shared in our reading by Rebecca Savage, today can be good for one breath at a time, one act of love and forgiveness at a time, one act of defiance and change at a time. When the ice storm hit last week, it hit harder than we expected, or at least harder than I expected. We opened the doors of the church to people who were still without power that next day. And while there weren't a large number of you who needed to use this space, what filled me with love and hope was that there were people who reached out to let me know that they had power and an extra room or a cot if someone needed it. When we offered other resources to people, I was touched by the people who made contact. And just think, in early 2020, as we were responding to the pandemic, being a caring community meant closing our building doors and creating some physical distance to each other. And at the same time, we created story time, and we called one another, and we checked in. And now, in early 2023, it means opening our building doors and drawing near. The roots of Tree of Life go deep, and they've allowed this congregation to bend and flex and grow and adapt to different circumstances. I'm seeing so much hope and energy pouring into our community. We're embarking on several experiments with long-term and newer congregants, stepping into new roles and bringing their ideas and enthusiasm to the journey. It's exciting to see who we are becoming. Where do you find hope in our community? What makes you feel excited about our future? What sings to your heart, your spirit? Is it our worship services, our social justice and social action efforts, our music program, your love of committee work? She says hopefully. Of course, that's what you laugh at. Is it that this is a place where you would like your children to grow? What gives you hope, and what makes you want to step beyond any fear of the unknown into the risk of a big shared endeavor? So everyone who's present here should have at least one index card. If you don't, could you raise your hand? Ted's going to be handing them out to people. And if you need a pen, could you raise your hand? I can't see the choir, so if you can pay attention over there too. And over here, I think, do you need pens or cards? Is the choir good? Can you see them? Lisa? Thank you so much, Ted. So as those go around, so I'm going to ask you to take just a couple of minutes to write down what came to your mind, where you found hope in our work together, and why this matters to you. When we're done, I'm going to invite you to take a couple more minutes sharing with one another. You can share with 1 or 2 people either next to you or across the room if you're feeling adventurous. And if you're a visitor here today or really new and not yet familiar with this congregation, please feel free to write something about what brought you here. And for those of you online, I encourage you to share in chat where you find hope, what excites you. And when we're done, I'm going to ask those of you present here to put your cards in the offering plates when we do the offering. And those of you online, we will capture the chat responses later. We are going to post all the responses on a bulletin board out in the fellowship hall as a reminder to why we are all doing this, why we pledge our time and our resources to sustain the Tree of Life. And when you are finished, feel free to go ahead and share with 1 or 2 people around you or across the room. I'll give you 5 minutes. We're going to come back together in about a minute, so wind up your conversations. I thought that might work. Thank you so much. I heard you all engaging with this experiment that we just did together, this little risk that we took. As we embark on our pledge campaign, I encourage you to think about what you love about this community, what gives you hope, and where you want us to go in the future. When we take risks that come with joining together in a congregation with others, we allow for resources to be available to all of us when we are in need. We have a building with power when people are cold. We have a place to come when we are confused or happy. We have technology that allows us to join with others from a distance. But pledging our resources to a shared endeavor is a bit of a risk. When we give to the future of our congregation, we are letting go of some control. We may not agree with every decision that is made by the leaders of our congregation. We may not personally and directly benefit from every program created within these walls. We may not like the color of the carpet picked out by the carpet committee, or the brand of coffee served at social hour. We may not even like coffee. We may not know or like the person who receives funds from the minister's discretionary fund. And yet, that is the nature of deep spiritual work of pledging. When we pledge our resources to a shared endeavor, we are committing to live our values together in a way that goes beyond our own preferences, our own desire for control. And we don't know what specific challenges Tree of Life will face in the coming year, just as we could never have predicted the specific challenges of the past 3 years. We don't know exactly which people or programs will come along. We can't perfectly predict our individual or shared circumstances. And yet we pledge. We pledge as an act of faith. We pledge as a commitment to something greater than our fears of an unknown future. We pledge as an act of hope. I want to close with these words by my colleague, Reverend Leslie Takahashi, who with her poem, On the Brink, says, "All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share. My beloved spiritual companions, may we take the risk of joining together, of contributing to the unknown future of this beloved community. May we embrace the opportunity to pledge ourselves to this shared mission, to nurture a community that welcomes diversity, supports the spiritual growth of its members, and acts to create a more just society. Blessed be. Amen.